Everyone, welcome back to our Python for Beginners series. If you've made it this far, I'm going to give you a round of applause because you've done well. As you already know, I am Babalola Oluwatosin, and in today's episode, we're talking about arithmetic operators in Python. In this video, you'll learn how to perform basic mathematical operations like addition, subtraction, and more. We'll also talk about the order of operations, also known as PEMDAS. By the end of this episode, you'll be able to build a program that calculates the area and perimeter of a rectangle using users' inputs. Python is great for performing calculations. Let's quickly go through some of the arithmetic operators. Here are some of the arithmetic operators we'll be looking at. We have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, which I believe we all have an idea of. So floor division basically rounds your results to the nearest whole number. So while modulus will give you the remainder of whatever division you are having, and exponential raises a number to a power. So let's see a detailed example of this thing. So let's apply the basic arithmetic operators to two numbers, which would be 5 and 3. So first I want to say print, and I'll say 5 plus 3. That will give me 8. That's for addition. So if we're doing subtraction, not to waste our time, let's just change this to minus. It gives me 2. All right, let's do multiplication. That's 5 times 3. Oh, sorry. That will give us 15, which is correct. Division, I'm sure we already know division. Okay, don't let me skip any parts, assuming. So division of 5 divided by 3 would be 1.667. So let's do the floor division, which is double slash, which will round the result to the nearest whole number. So if we're getting the nearest whole number here, that would be 1. You know, when we divided it, it was 1.67, and the whole number inside 1.67 is 1. So that's what the floor division does. So let's check out modulus. So modulus is giving us 2 because that is the remainder that we have. So if we say 5 divided by 3, that will be 1, and the remainder will be 2, and that is what we have here. So if we say exponential, then we're using 2 asterisk like this. If we run it, that will be 125. So that will be 5 raised to power 3. That will be 5 times 5 times 5. And this is the basic arithmetic operators. Try this out in your Python shell to see the results. Next, let's talk about the order of operations, which is the order Python follows to solve math problems. So what is the full meaning of PEMDAS? So P stands for parentheses. E stands for exponent. Then M stands for multiplication. D stands for division. A stands for addition. S stands for subtraction. So this is the full meaning of PEMDAS. Parenthesis comes first. Whenever you have a long calculation, if there's a parenthesis, it's first going to calculate the parenthesis, then go to the multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So let's have an example where we'll see how this works. Let's say we have this long calculation that we want to perform. We have 5 plus 3 times 2 minus 8 divided by 4. So, you know, normally you might think that you start your calculation from saying 5 plus 3, 8 times 2, 16 minus 8, 8 divided by 4, 2. You might be thinking your final answer will be 2, but you have to follow this PEMDAS by saying, okay, is there parenthesis? There's no parenthesis. Is there exponent? There's no exponent, but there is multiplication. So your calculation is going to start with this multiplication. So it will first say 3 multiplied by 2. That will be 6, right? And then followed by this division, 8 divided by 4, that will be 2. Then it will now come to the addition. 5 plus, 3 times 2, multiplication was the first thing we did, which is 6. So that will be 5 plus 6 will be 11. Then minus this one that we already divided, we got 2. So that will be 9. And if we run this now, we are going to get 9. Can you see that? So if you had done it from the left side by just saying 5 plus 3 times 2, you were going to get 2, which is a wrong answer. And that is the essence of understanding what PEMDAS does.
Here, multiplication and division happens first, followed by addition and subtraction. To override the order, you can use parentheses.
So let's try to add parentheses to some of the part of this, and then you see that it's going to give us a different result. So let's add parentheses to this 5 plus 3, and also parentheses to this 2 minus 8. Okay, so now that we've added parentheses, you have to always follow PEMDAS whenever you have something like this. So parentheses is obviously going to come first. So wherever you have 5 plus 3, you know you are going to calculate whatever is in the parentheses first. That will be 8, right? So this one is 8. Then 2 minus 8, which is also in the parentheses, will be the next thing you are calculating. 2 minus 8 will give you minus 6, right? And you know that following the PEMDAS right here, after you have parentheses, then you go to multiplication and division. Okay, so now the next thing will be multiplication. So this one will be 8, right? And this one will be minus 6. So 8 times minus 6, that will give you minus 48. Minus 48 divided by 4 will give us minus 12, and that will be the answer for this. You can see that we still use the same, exactly the same value as we used here. That is what we used there, but because we just added parentheses, Python will follow the PEMDAS, and in the real world, aside using Python, this is the correct way to do your calculations. Okay, can you see that we got minus 12, and that's how you are supposed to calculate it. I'm sorry if you don't like mathematics, but these are some of the basic things you have to understand before you start writing Python programs.
You can also play around with parentheses to change the order of operations and see how it affects the result. Now it's time to apply what you've learned. Let's create a Python program that calculates the area and perimeter of a rectangle based on users' inputs.
Created a markdown for the question which says create a Python program that calculates the area and perimeter of a rectangle based on the user input. And whenever you are given a question or a task to do in Python, you can first list out your steps. So the question says we should create a Python program that calculates the area and perimeter of a rectangle. We are calculating two things based on user input. So first we want to get the user's input. So we can first ask the user for the rectangle's length and width. Then the second thing is we want to use the formula. They said we should calculate the area. So we want to use the formula for area, which is this, area of a rectangle, which is this. Then use the formula for the perimeter of a rectangle, which is this. And afterwards, then we are going to print the results of our program. So now that we already have the steps we want to follow, then we can proceed to write our code. So let's write the code now. So the first thing I want to get is ask the user for input, and let's say I want to get the length input first. So I'll declare a variable called length, and I want my input to be, it could be integer, it could be float. Remember, whenever we use input function, it's always brings a value back as string, and you always have to convert it to whether integer or float. If you can't remember this, check the last episode for explanation on input and output so that you can remember. So now I first want to do float, okay, and then I'm going to ask for the user's input by saying input. So what do we want to ask them to input? So I'll say enter the length of the rectangle. Enter the length of the rectangle. Okay, so on my next line, I'm going to ask for the width of the rectangle. So not to waste our time, let me just copy this and just change some things. So I'll change this to width. Okay, so I'll change this also to width. So I'm going to say enter the width of the rectangle. So we've gotten the user input right here. And you can also write comments inside your Python code by starting with hash. So I can say this code is to get the user input. So I'll remember next time I open it. So after getting the user input, we want to use the formula for area, which is length times width. So I want to say area equals to length times width. Okay, so in this next step, what I want to do is I want to calculate area and perimeter. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to do area times width. That's the next thing I want to do. Okay, so there's error in the name. I was going to type width here. I made a mistake, so I'm going to correct that. And the next one is to calculate the perimeter. So perimeter would be, this is the formula. I already got it. If you don't know your formula that you're supposed to use, you can check it up online for the area and perimeter of a rectangle. And then I'm going to do 2 times into bracket, so it's like 2 lb, length width or length breadth, whatever. So we can do length in bracket plus width. Okay, so we've gotten so first we are getting the user inputs, second we are calculating the area and parameter, and third we are going to print the result. So let me write display the results that we have. Okay, so to display the results now, you already know we are using the print for output. All right, using the f string that I've explained in the previous episode, we are going to say the area of the rectangle, let's start with rectangle, is, then I can call for the area in curly brackets, so I'll call for the area. Okay, and then maybe if you want to write it on a continuous line, you can just say and the perimeter is this, but let me just put it on another line. So let me copy this so I don't rewrite. So I'm just going to change this to perimeter. So the perimeter of the rectangle is, and I'm going to change this also to the perimeter value. Okay, I hope we got this. So now let's try to run it. If you run it now, it's asking us for the length, so I'm just going to put any length. Let me put 12, and then it's asking me for the width. Let me put 8. So now it's going to calculate the area, which is 12 times, I think 8. I added 8, right? So that will be the area, and to use this formula also to get the perimeter using the length and width I specified, and also give us the result. This is the result here, and I hope you understand this.
Make sure to save this script, run it and test it with different inputs. It's a great way to practice taking users' inputs and performing calculations with it. And the most exciting part, here is today's challenge. Write a Python program that calculates the area and perimeter of a triangle. Ask the user for the base, height, and all 3 sides of the triangle. Make sure your program works with decimal numbers. That's all for this episode. We learned about arithmetic operators and how to use them in Python. Don't forget to complete the challenge and tag me with your solutions. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more beginner-friendly Python tutorials. See you in the next video where we'll talk about conditional statements in Python. Until then, happy coding!